evening, everybody. Happy Friday. I got my camera right in my face tonight, but partly because of it's hot and I've got a fan blowing on me. It's almost 100 degrees outside. It's like 93. So um, I'm not going to have my face on camera too far. So, we'll move that around. But I wanted to say welcome. Welcome. Hope everyone's had a great week. Wait for things to catch up here for a minute. It'll be just a minute there. Looks like everything's going good. I hear the sound is all good, so we'll put the remote control away. We'll put the remote away. All right. Well, tonight we are going to be using the inspiration box and maybe a couple of the other subscription items, but for the most part, it's all going to be from the inspiration box, other than maybe some ink or some paper. So let us switch the camera down. Hi, Mama. I am going to go ahead and go over some of the stuff that we're going to use tonight while we're kind of catching people up. So here is the inspiration box, A Mermaid's Tale. As of yesterday, I think there was 3 left. So if you want to get this, you will need to get this now. But if you sign up for it, you will be guaranteed for next month if it sells out beforehand. But it comes with a 6x6 paper pad. It's got some watercolor paper in here. It's a water reactive paper. Looks like this. So this is got watercolor already on it. Some card bases. There was some card stock, including that beautiful mirrored card stock. I'm gonna put that off to the side because we are not gonna use all of that tonight. And then it came with this A2 stencil that kind of scales. I'm not exactly sure the name of this one, but it is exclusive in the box right now. You get the Shellabration stamp set. Hi, Karen. And there is an SVG cut file, which I am doing a live on Sunday at 10 Central, showing how I use the cut files, the coordinating cut files. It'll be the Flamingo, the Stamp Club Premium stamp set. I haven't used it at all yet. And how I make my little templates and how I stamp them all out. There was some sand paste, Starlit Shore. Now, I did not swatch this out because right now, as far as I know, this is exclusive to the box. And I figured I might as well not have a swatch because when it's gone, it's not like I can replace it. If it is available later, I will swatch it out when I buy some. So they're just some of the things that were in the box. And let us get started with the other things. So tonight, the only thing, hi, Kate, that I know for sure that I'm going to add on that is not cardstock, like stash cardstock, is this is the stamp. This is the paper pad of the month called Watercolor Waves. 12 patterns, 4 of each. So these are the beautiful color. Oops, sorry. Those are the beautiful color. And I am going to use one of these as my card base, or with my card base. And then I wanted to show the embossing powder of the month is this beautiful mermaid tail. I'm going to be careful because I have a fan blowing in here, but look at how pretty this is. And it comes in the little brown bags. And then I buy these little jars. And then I had an aha moment. Heather talked to me about it. I was peeling the sticker off the plastic and sticking on top. And then she was like, duh, use a swatch dot. And I'm like, of course. So here's the swatch dot, which is how I swatch mine out. But I just put that sticker on top and I wanted to show you guys. I just cut around it, wiped off the excess little powder on the back, and then I'm just going to peel it off and I'm going to stick my label right on top. And now it's perfect and it's not like torn or anything. And I was like, oh, so I wanted to save that for you guys to show. But this is what it looks like when it's swatched out. Isn't that beautiful? This is the embossing powder of the month. So like I said, I believe when it's gone, it's gone. And I do know we had the Bermuda Blue. I don't know if there's any left in stock, but this is what the Bermuda Blue looked like swatched out if you got it and you hadn't swatched it yet. So I think that's really pretty. And then 2 other things I wanted to show you is I do have all of the shimmer mists from this month swatched out. So you can kind of see that shimmer. It's kind of hard to catch on camera. But we got the Flamingo Fizz, the Cabana Berry, the Mango Sunrise, the Seafoam Chill, and the Ocean Paddle. and they all have some shimmer into them. It's just like I said, it's kind of hard to see on camera. And then last but not least, I wanted to show that I also did the Cosmo glazes. And look at how pretty these are. Pink Sand, Sunbeam Sorbet, Coastal Mint, Snorkel Splash, and Seashell Whisper. And they are so pretty. And what I did to make these perfect is this is a free download on our website. This was the aqua pigment one. I just crossed it off and put Cosmo Glaze. And then I have the Swatch and Go stencil. And I just covered it like this and swatched it out, wiped it off, moved it down, swatched it out. And that's how I did those. So, all right, let's go on and have some fun now. For my card base, I pulled in some lunch bag. As you guys know, this is one of my favorite card stocks. I'm going to actually use a full sheet. And we're going to make a slimline card, because not a mini slim, a slimline card. So you know how I love slimline and mini slim cards. So we'll cut that cut down. Hope everyone's had a good week. It's been a little crazy week getting back at it. I took some time off last week, and I went to see my daughter in Chicago, had a great time, but I was glad to come home and just be in my own bed and home. I'm going to cut this down. It's already at 8 inches to 3 1/4, because that's my favorite size for a mini slim card base or panel. So my base is 3 1/2. Then I like to have it 3 1/4. Sometimes I do a 3 1/4 base. It just kind of depends on my mood. And then I'm covering stuff up over here. Let me pull a chair closer to use as my little base thing here. Because I need to get my stuff out. So, hi, Penny. So what I'm going to do is we're going to choose a pattern paper, and that's just what we're going to use first. And I want to use, like I said, one of the watercolor waves, because I just think it's really pretty, and I wanted that kind of muted background. And I actually I already have one ready to go here. I chose this one. And what I did is I cut it in half. So I cut it directly in half. And then I just eyeballed and decided how far to cut this one. So this is a 3x6. So that's going to be for a second card. And this one I cut down. Do I have my fancy little roller here? I do. It is, turn it over so I can read it. I cut it to 4 1/2. So this one's 4 1/2 by 3, which would make this one 1 1/2 inches. And those were just colors, sizes that I want, because what we're going to do is we're going to put one up here and we're going to put one down here. And then this is where you can do whatever you want, but we are going to use the sand paste. Okay. So how I did this is I kind of just eyeballed it, and I took some low-tech tape, and I tried to be very careful and make sure it was kind of even on both sides. And I'm going to just tack it down. That's not quite even. It's okay if it's not even, but I'm trying to make it as even as possible, because when you have a simpler card, like I think this is going to end up being, you want the details to be as good as you can get that. All right, so I'm actually going to just take this piece off, because we can use this piece as our kind of border for now. And I'm eyeballing it just to see, and I'm going to take another piece. And basically all we're doing is masking it off. And this is kind of like a Post-it note tape. It's not quite as sticky as some others. It doesn't like to always stick. This was something I don't think we carry this anymore, but I'm just trying to use up low-tack tape. But washi tape will work, Post-it note tape. And then what I'm going to do for this piece is we're going to eyeball it like this. And this is just some Post-it note tape. Hi, Jamie, that I got offline. I've had forever. I just happened to find it. And we're going to kind of just eyeball where I want it. I'm going to see as that looks. Let me see. That looks pretty good there. And then for placement, I'm just kind of placing this so I have the even border, and I'm just going to put this right. I want it to be higher than that. So about right there. That'll work. Okay. It's a little short. All right. And then we're going to use this, and I'm not using any pixie spray or anything. You could, I just don't think it's necessary. And I'm just going to kind of line it up how I think it's pretty, you know, how much of this I want to do. And I'm going to just use my little magnets, and we're going to use the sand paste. You could use the quartz sand paste or which is the white or the blue one, but I am going to use the Starlit Shore that came with the kit. And the other ones come in a container. I don't know if I have mine. Yes. Here's the white. But this one came in the pouch, which is very nice for this from the box. It helped, you know, it helps with cost. And all I did was kind of just, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but I'm just squeezing it out. You know, I'm not worried. I don't want to get tons out because I don't really want to waste it. As in, I don't know how much I'm going to need. It depends on how thick you want it. Hi, Miss Sarah. And I'm just going to go ahead and scrape it on. And I'm just going one direction as best as I can. I try to always go one direction. I know sometimes that's not the 100% true, but I do try to go one direction. And I'm just doing it as even as possible, just so the brown is covered, the lunch bag. And then I might need, just see, I didn't need much. So I'm just going to squirt out just the smallest little bit right there. And I'm going to scrape that off. And it does remind me a little bit of baby food. You're right, Sarah. And I'm so scared I'm going to squish it and it's going to go everywhere. And then I'm just going to roll it over a little bit so that it's all on this one spot. And that's why I did the masking off. And then what I did with my extra, and you'll see this is what it looks like when it's dry. I just took the extra and I just, because I want it to be as, like I said, thin and even and flat as I can make it. I just scraped it on a piece of scratch paper. And then later I'll decide if I want, can I cut a little die cut out of it or cut a shape out of it or something. And if not, I'll just throw it away because that's not that much. So let me grab a baby wipe. No. Oh, I'm going to use the one that's already in my trash because it's dry, but I just need it to wipe things off. And then behind me, I have my little stencil bin. It's right behind me here that has just some water and some stencil cleaner in it. And 1, 2, 3, peel that off. I'm just going to take this in and throw it in there and let it sit. And that's only because I'm live, or sometimes when I'm crafting, I try to do that so that I can clean later. Like last night, I actually just wiped it all off with a baby wipe. So I didn't forget to leave it sitting there all night because I tend to do that. So it was ready for today. And then we're going to do the reveal. So we're just going to go ahead and peel this off. And I am going to throw these away. You could wipe them off and reuse them, but it's low tack tape is fairly inexpensive. So, and then we're just going to set this aside to dry. And through the powers of magic, I guess, Sarah, is that how you said, the magic of television? When the starlit shores is dry, it looks like this. So here's the difference. I'm gonna bring them up a little closer. Yes, through the magic of television. And you can see on this one that I didn't get it perfect, you know, like I didn't get it super thick, but I'm okay with that. But I think this is just real fun. And then I'm just going to set this one aside to dry. And then we have our little card base or our little card panel. And then we can go ahead and see how I went over just enough that when I go to hide it, I can go ahead and put this down. It's just going to be a nice little fun accent and difference to my card. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to use some tape. And I am going to use a little bit of liquid tape or liquid glue along with my dry adhesive, only because it's a paste. Yes, the magician's assistants. Yeah, that timing isn't always my best thing. I was watching my local scrapbook store owner. She was doing a live just before this, and I'm like, I gotta go. I'm gonna be live in a few minutes, and I gotta get my camera set up. So I told her I'd see her later. So It is just, I'm so glad. I have not had a chance to play with much of this release yet, being gone last weekend, but I got it. It came in while I was gone, and I'm so excited for tomorrow to just, and the fact that it's going to be 100 degrees the next 2 days so that I can just craft. So I'm going to take the dog for a quick walk in the morning early, like at 7 a.m. Oh, I didn't put any liquid glue on that one. Oh, well, that's okay. It will work. And then come back, and him and I are going to stay inside all day and craft. I'm just grabbing one of our pre-cuts or our card bases so I can kind of show you. So these are not pre-scored. The slimline cards aren't, but I have to score them. I believe the slimline ones are, but I like to use them so that I have a white border on the edges. I don't care about having a white border at the top, but look at how pretty that is. It's just fun. So what I did and during Walter's live on Monday for Men and Monroe, I actually was using my SVGs, the cut files, and this, and I cut and stamped out 3 full sets of this entire stamp set, which is what I'm going to show you on Sunday, how I did that. And of course, I have to figure out where I set it. Okay, where are my colored stamps? Oh yeah, they're hiding here. They're falling off of my stick and stamp mat. After I cut them, stamped them, I stuck them to my stick and stamp mat, and I colored them with Olo markers and Copic markers. And voila, we have a bunch of images to go ahead and put down. And I colored a bunch so that in case we had a chance and we could do, yes, it is the best way to do it, Sarah, is that we could go ahead and maybe make more than one card. So I haven't really decided. I didn't do fancy coloring. Some of them are shaded, some of them are not. I wasn't too worried about getting a really good blend with the hair and everything because these, excuse me, are magical mermaids, right? So I'm going to go ahead, and if you haven't used the stick and set mat, then I have a blending buddy on this. You just peel it back on its stuff and they just pop right off. Mine is a little bit more sticky because it's still fairly new. So I just peel it off. And I will say paper is everything. If you use a cheap paper, it will stick and it will tear. So use a good quality cardstock. I love our cardstocks and our perfect blend. You can tell this is still very sticky, but it's not tearing. So I'm just going to peel them off. I wanted to show you how they just stick on there. You could watercolor with these and then leave them to dry, and they should dry flat. So the smaller images obviously are not going to pop off as well because they're just too tiny. I wanted to color quite a few images so that we had options. And then what I do, that one tore, I think that's because I didn't bend it enough. But it was just the backside. What I do is I leave my blending buddy on it, and then I just stick my middle piece for my blending buddy back on it, and then just store it like that. So here is our card. So now we have to decide what we want to do. And I'm thinking about putting her right here because this is where I'm not like perfect with my coloring. And I'm just going to pretend this whole thing is under the sea. This is like under the sea everywhere. So we can do, a sand castle. I'm just going to lay a few items out. I'm thinking I like bring some color in. I did color these two, this fish to kind of match this one. They're not the same. Like, I put the colors backwards. Joanne, hi. I do too. I know. Maybe in the fall when you guys, I can't get over during the week. It would be fun to get together again. I miss you guys. I have to laugh because when I was gone last weekend, I actually, Lori's like, did you just call me? And I was like, I didn't even butt dial her. I was holding my phone in my hand and somehow I must have pushed her button and I just called her. So we've got these little fishies, how we can do whatever we want. I'm kind of liking this. I might leave the castle off for this one and maybe put my sentiment down there. So I've got all these little guys, we've got a little shell we can put there. We can maybe pop that up so that we got a little thing. And then What I do is I save my little plastic baggies from if I buy something like from a die set that came or some ephemera, and I stick all my extra pieces in. I do that same thing with like my mini stamp sets. Like if you like, here's some sticky dots that you can use with it. I will take this off and stick them inside, and then I can stick them in. And so I have all my little sentiments in here. We've got "You're fantastic," "Waving hello," "See you soon," and "Celebrate." Celebrate your day. Those are our sentiments today. Um, and I'm thinking I might just do, I might do "Waving hello." I think that's the one I want to do. So I'm going to do this kind of a layout like this with this. And then we've got all these extra pieces we can do something with later. We'll maybe add some on, but let's get started on that. First thing I'm going to do is add my card base, the card panel to my card base. And you can see that there's a little bit of sticky to the back side of my pieces. Part of that is because I like to use my Cricut mats till they are no longer Cricut mats or whatever, my mats. So I will use some pixie spray to hold my pieces of cardstock in place on my sticky mats as they start losing stick. And part of that's because I forget to cover it, or I also, because of my puppy, and there can be dog hair and just dust if it's around when I have embossing powders and I get embossing powder on it. So I will spray the back of my paper and stick it to my cut mat. And then there's a little bit of sticky to tackiness to my stuff. So I think we're going to pop up a lot of these images tonight. So I'm just going to use some of our foam tape. So is everyone ready? I mean, it's actually happy first day of summer. Hi, Susan. Yes, I am glad to be back. I loved being with my daughter and having some good time watching her work. She works so hard. I mean, there was a couple nights where the two of the nights I literally texted her. I woke up, I went to the bathroom, and she wasn't home. And I texted her, "Where are you?" And she's like, "I'm still kind of working." It was like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, she was not that they made her work. She was just the way she is. She was helping with a situation that was happening over at, we were at two different hotels. We found out once we got there, we'd be at a separate hotel about 3 blocks away. And she was trying to help with a situation, and it was just kind of taking a long time. And they start late, so they end late. Missy, it's something that I've been doing for a long time because I had my scan and cut, and I've used that mat for so long that I wonder what would happen if I use a little pixie spray. And I just sprayed it. And sometimes I use a brayer to hold it too. But what I now do is I put it in my video, and I'll show you guys that on Sunday if you're watching the live or the repeat of my live from Sunday. I hold my mat, and as it runs through, I kind of run my fingers down and push it in so that it kind of goes. But I have kind of a crazy thing, Susan, to tell you. I almost didn't make it back. And what I mean by that is, so I flew out of Denver Air, out of Dubuque, which was fabulous. If you have not, I don't, it's just a little air. It's the only airline that flies out of my little tiny town. I get there, I mean, my airport is so tiny that when I checked in at 6:45, as soon as the door opened, security like stood up, like, "Whoa, somebody's actually here to check in." So I get through security and I sit down, and I'm just kind of daydreaming, waiting for the flight. I could see my plane, it's like 20 yards away. And I turn around and it said free beverages. So there was water and coffee and pop and juices, and then like snacks, like granola bars and all this compliments of the airline. And then the lady came and she's like, yeah, I knew I'd have to check my bag, gate check it, because it's a small airport in a small plane. But she came right over and she's like, "Can I take your bag for you?" And she took it right out. She went around and collected everyone's bags for us. So instead of coming, and then we were getting closer to boarding time, and I went up to her and I said, "How does this work? I don't have a seat." She goes, "Oh, yeah, it's first come, first serve. It's like as soon as we say you can get on the plane, you just go sit wherever you want." And I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So I did all that. It was, she calls for boarding. Nobody gets up. There's only about 20, maybe 30 people max, um, to board this plane. And I'm like, oh, I'll go first. So I went in, and this flight attendant's like, anywhere past row 5. So I just chose a seat and, was like, good to go. And it was only a 30-minute flight. Well, needless to say, on Friday or Sunday morning, I got up in the middle of the night and I was like, I forgot to check in for my flight. I should do that now while I'm kind of awake so I don't forget. Because I was flying out of Chicago O'Hare, which I really, was, I've been through O'Hare, but I've never actually had to check in, like go through security and all this. So I was like, I better do this. So I'm trying to check in. And of course, needless to say, this is a night that my daughter worked late. So she was staying back kind of at the other hotel. Um, and I went to check in and it wouldn't let me check in and it wouldn't let me check in. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I kept looking at it. And then I looked at it a little bit longer and it dawned on me, I had booked my flight for Monday night, not Sunday night. So I was like, oh, I said something I can't repeat. And I'm like, now what am I going to do? I'm like, my boss is expecting me home. I want to get home. My daughter's flying out Sunday. I'm like, I'm going to be stuck in Chicago by myself, all this stuff, another hotel room. So, of course, freaking out a little bit. And I find an 800 number and I called Denver Air, not expecting them to answer at 4 o'clock in the morning. And some lady answered, and I could kind of tell by the way she was talking, it was probably working from home. And I told her what was going on, and she said, hold on. Bloop, 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 bloop. She said, check your email. She moved me over to the flight I needed to be on, and I didn't have any extra charges. She just they just changed my flight for me for free. And I was like, really? And I'm like, I was like, awesome. I mean, it was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like ready to cry. I was so excited that they did this for me. So that was awesome. And then when I go to check in, it was the same thing. Instead of, because it's such a small flight, they had this little tiny, it's smaller than my desk, and it had all these pops, or it had waters, and it had crackers, and it had chips, and it had candy bars, and it said, take a snack before you get on the plane. So it was the same, and it was just, it was such a great experience. So I will definitely try to fly that again. And I'm going to see if I get to go to CYOE next year, or for one of the events, I'm going to try and book it so that I can just swap to like American or United, because that's the same terminal, and fly out of Dubuque because it's only a 40-minute drive from my house versus an hour and a half. There's no parking to pay for. So it was great. So if you ever get a chance to fly Denver Air, go for it. All right. So while I was talking, I just obviously just glued these pieces down. Nothing fancy about that. But now is where we're going to add a little bit more fun. We're going to add a little bling. And what we're going to do to add bling is we're going to add my favorite ornament gold chroma mist. So I'm just going to shake it off here at the side. You could use some of the new shimmer mists. Like I have, do I have them all handy? I don't know if I have all the new ones handy. I do. Which ones do we want? I want seafoam. We're going to use that one too. Okay, so we're going to use this ornament gold. Shaking it up, and I just want to show you, see how on the bottom, you can see a little bit of that. You want to make that. Thank you, Amanda. I know, Penny. Oh, that'll be fun. I wish I could, but it's just not going to work this year. I should have gone for ooh, I was leaking a little bit there. I should have gone for spring fling. So, and I know sunflower soiree is coming up. I'm super excited for that. I know boxes were starting to ship for that this week, and I know they're going to get the last. If they're not all out, they will be out. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of this on my desk here. And I like to wipe it off. And that was the Seafoam Chill. And this is the Ornament Gold. And what I love about these is that these are just the perfect little shimmer. And then I'm just going to grab a paintbrush. And I'm going to start with the Ornament Gold. And it's going to be hard to see, but all I'm really going to do is I want to add shimmer to her crown. Because, I mean, who's a mermaid princess without shimmer on your crown, right? And we're just going to make her extra, extra, extra shimmery because I feel like she needs to be. And we're going to paint, and that's why I colored it this way. I am going to paint the shimmer on her scales and on her tail because I just feel like she's got to be super shimmery. And that is the perfect little touch. I mean, you could go hog wild. You could make her all shimmery. I'm just going to wipe it up, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of the Seafoam Chill, and we're going to put this in her hair. And that's why I didn't worry about her hair being super blended with my Copic markers, because you know, my Olo Copic markers, because I knew I was going to add this. But I wanted to do this with you guys because it won't take that long to dry, especially with the heat that it is in this house. Well, not in the house, but just in general. And then you will be able to hopefully see some of this sparkle. So, Penny, I think you guys are having a great time with CYOE. Just unfortunately was the bad time this year for me to go with the going ons in my little town. I mean, I'm sure I could have made it work, but it will be a lot easier for me to just be home this year with it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. Yes, spend a minimum of $50 through Sunday evening and you'll get a freebie Sandy Shore Squeaky Clean. And that is, you can kind of see that's wet. We're going to let that just kind of dry and we'll come back to that. I mean, you could keep going and making the rest of those glittery, but we're going to just let them dry off to their side. And then I just take a little, I mean, you could take water, but I'm just going to take a brush and wipe it. And actually think, I'm going to grab a piece of watercolor paper because I don't like to waste it. Sorry, I dropped it. I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to squish this up and we're just going to pick it up, squish it, and I'm going to leave this. And I mean, look at those two colors together. They're hard to see a little bit, but it's almost like the sea and the sand right there. I'm just going to swipe it and kind of use it and see what it looks like. And I might just use this for a sentiment or something less. Yes, I know. I know. But I'll be there in spirit and I'll be there watching from video. So, all right, I'm going to put that off to the side to dry somewhere here. And then we're going to move on and we're going to make maybe another fun card because we still have plenty of time. All right. Let's see. I'm going to grab, I have most of the rest of the release here. We've got some, these were a separate little mini release. There was the Flamingo and the Tropical Leaf A2 stencil. I use this one. Here's the creative cards. Maybe we'll use one of those. Or actually, I'm going to use the Coral Reefs paper pad. And here is the stamp of the month. And if you have spent $60, I believe, the incentive stamp, which you'll add free to your cart, is this Fishing You, which is so cute. It's a little happy birthday. So I will be using some of these on Sunday. So I'm just kind of peeking here. I think that's good. We'll just use, I think we're going to use the rest of these items in one of the Coral Reef papers. Yes, there are SVG files available for all the stamp sets. And like I said, on Sunday at 10 a.m. Central, I'm going to go over how I use them to stamp and cut things out. So you'll be able to ask me questions and see how I do it. If you don't know how, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that it is not super hard, especially with a Cricut. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly look through these pieces of paper and see which one. I'm kind of leaning towards this one right away. Or maybe that one, just because of what's in it. And then we'll flip them over quick. So this is not in the box. This is an add-on paper pad. And I wanted to use them kind of added on with, I think I'm going to use this one. And then we're going to make a mini slim card because, you know, those are my favorite. And I love how it says on the back what colors match. And I think I'm going to go real kind of crazy here, and we're going to use the rouge as our card base because we've got this pink hair on our mermaid, and I think that will be fun. And this is rouge in the card? Rouge was one of the pieces you get in the box, so we will use that. So I kind of wanted to try to use most things that were in the box, but I like to add the other pieces of paper pad in there. And once again, I'm going to cut this. We're going to actually cut this down to 6 1/4 because we're going to make our card base out of this. Oh, I cut that wrong. Oh, no, that's okay. And then it's 8 inches, so I'm just going to cut an inch off because I need it by 7. I think I did that right. I might have done it backwards, but it works. So 6 1/4 by 7. And then I need my scoreboard. And on the 7 side, we're going to score it at 3 1/2, which is half. I might have done this completely wrong. Let's just check. Yep, 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. Now, sometimes I like to cut these. I'll make them like this, and then I cut them down. Oh, I did not score that right at all. So I must not have cut my paper right. Oh yeah, I need another 1/2 inch off. That's why, because it's 8 1/2. Math, it's hard, right? So you can tell I didn't quite, I had needed to cut it down to take 1.5 inches off, and I only took 1 inch off. So that other 1/2 inch off. And we'll just save this for a sentiment strip. So now we've got our card base. And then I'm going to cut this directly in half at 3 inches. And this would make 2 mini slim cards. Now, because it's at 3 inches, this is where I can tell you the difference. I did 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. So that's my normal card base. But if I want it to be exact, like I really want it to have the exact side around, I will trim this off, and I will do this always after. I know it's a little bit of a waste of cardstock, just a tiny bit. But what I do with these little pieces, I stick them in with the card base, and then they're just like little, like, I mean, I could, so now it's 6 1/4 by 3 1/4 because this is at 3 inches. I mean, I can always use it as like a little piece like this. Does that make sense? So I don't feel like it's a waste, but I like to make sure I do my card bases at 3 or 3 1/2 to start, and then decide if I want to cut it down. Because sometimes I don't, and then sometimes I'll cut them down longer too. It just kind of hit or miss. There are no specific measurements you need for a mini slim card. You can do 6 by 3 1/4. You can do 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. You just want to make sure they fit whatever envelope you have. And sometimes I just make an envelope, or I just throw it in a business envelope and mail it or hand it out. So I think we're going to use this one because I like the pink on this one. There's a lot of extra pink, and we're just going to go ahead and add this right to our card base. These paper pads are just so pretty that you can just use these with just kind of a simple sentiment. And I don't mean that in the sense that but it just makes such a pretty card, or one little image. I mean, all I have to do is I could put this on here, or you could do like your dolphin swimming in the sea, or some little fishes, and just be like, you're fantastic. And you have the simplest little card, but what a high impact. And you wanted to add more glitter to it, you could add, you could foil this with some foil, like see-through foil, like the magical shattered glass foil, or you could cover it with the fairy dust embossing powder, and it would just make it shimmery, or fallen snow, or things, glitter glaze. But I just think it's kind of fun. Now, I kind of like the fact that I know she looks like she's laying down, but I'm kind of pretending that they're kind of swimming together a little bit. So I am going to put her down a little bit more towards the bottom, so she's kind of like she's in here. And this is where I could take this piece, and that's maybe what we'll do, and we'll just anchor her a little bit on it, like this. Okay? So, I mean, we can kind of put it wherever we want. Maybe we'll do it right about here. So let's add some glue to this. And then I always, when I have extra on the edges, I just run my finger over the edge. And then, of course, we're going to use our glass mat here. to line it up and kind of, I'm just going to choose one of these dotted lines. Excuse my head if it gets in your way, to kind of match it up. And then I will just cut off the extra. And then when we go to put her down on here, she'll has like a little place to sit. Okay, but I think we'll pop her up too. So the nice like about using those SVGs, it makes it so nice to be able to get a bunch of items. Or like I said, I had all of these ready to go, and I was watching the Indiana basketball game last night with my honey, or just before, and I just sat down and colored while we were watching TV, and they were all ready to go and stamp, and I had them just cut out. I mean, I've been doing that now for about 2 months now for sure, where instead of using the dies, when, because right now we don't have the dies, um, I'm loving it because I would never stamp this many images out and stamp them and have them ready to go. I would stamp and die cut. And to be honest with you, I will tell you that it felt a little tedious to do that when I wanted to color images. And so I love the fact that it was just so simple. And now I have a bunch, like I have these all ready to go. I have a bunch of the things for sailing ready to go. And so tomorrow when I sit down to craft, I have things to choose from. And I don't have to sit in. I did all that coloring at one point. I'm just going to put these on my desk instead of tear off. So, um, Sue, what has been your favorite things from the release so far this month? Next month is so good. I did a sneaky peek. It was awesome. I mean, they're all so good. I know Christopher shared something briefly the other day, I think Tuesday night, maybe. He shared a very quick sneaky peek, but each month has just been topping, and I've just been loving each and every one. I'm gonna go ahead and center her on our sentiment here, or our little strip. And then I've got these little coral pieces that we can kind of tuck in and around. And I don't know why I only cut one piece of grass. And I think we're just going to stick that down and around so that we bring that green over to the other side. And stick it down underneath here a little bit. And that's one thing that's nice about having the foam tape is you got a little bit extra space. So I'm going to put that one down there, and I think we're going to put some coral. But before I put I am going to do the coral. I do want to color her hair up a little bit. And I'm going to use one of the oldie Chroma Mist. This is the Magenta Sparkle. It is a beautiful pink. And I'm just shaking it up. Now, if you wanted to spritz it, I like to take my cap off and spritz it in my garbage can first. And then if I was going to spray the whole thing, because I feel like you get a little bit nicer spray if you spray that initial spritz off to the side, but you don't have to do that. You can just, it's easier for me to do that way. So like I said, we're gonna spray her, paint her hair, and just make her super sparkly here. And if you didn't have the exact color, like some people have smaller spaces, so you can't always have all of the colors. I try to make space where I pile them on each other and then hide some that I'm not using for a while. But the ornamental gold chroma is a perfect one to have because you can water it down just a hair, or you also the pearl aqua pigment. You water it down just a little bit, and it will be just shimmery and shiny. But I've been liking to grab the colors that are very similar in our shimmer mists. And I was really excited that this release had basically had one of every color. And then I don't know if you could look at the shimmer in that. Isn't that fun? And then I think we'll add a gem to her hair. But we're not done there. We're going to make her even more shimmery because I want her all shimmery except her skin. which we could still make her skin shimmery too, but we want it, her tail's got to be shimmery. So this is the ornament gold. Like I said, it's going to add a little bit of a gold sheen to it, but not much. You're going to see more of that purple through there, or it's just going to be extra shimmery. And we're just going to do her tail, and I'm going to do her little top here. And I think that's an extra fun little touch to it. Okay, so we've got that. Now we got to add just a little bit because we're going to do your fantastic. I think that's fun, but we got to add a few more. We got to add a few more little fishes in here. So got these little fun blue ones up here. And I wanted to add a coral, and I'm going to pop that up a little bit so that it's at the same level as our little mermaid girl here. And I tried to go with lots of fun colors. Like I went very colorful with this. I tried to do like some, so that I had a little bit of every color of the rainbow. And we're just going to add a couple pieces of coral right here. And I'm only putting a little bit of foam tape on because it's going to overlap. And then it's up to you if you wanted some, you could add some liquid glue so that it could, it could be together. But I'm just going to tuck it underneath so it's kind of sitting right like that. And actually thinking I'm going to put one more here just because I have it and I like things in odd numbers. And she reminds me a little bit of Ariel because we've got these fun little, we got this little note in the bottle. So these mermaids do. So you could pretend like she's finding all her little thingamabobs and whatchamacallits. So we're just going to add those let up a little burst of coral, and then we're going to put a couple of the fishes up top. And we got one little fishy here. And then I think we'll glue him flat just for some extra little. Oops, I almost glued him upside down. Glue him in top like that. And then we've got our little You're Fantastic. And then of course we got to add a little bit of bling. And we've got ourselves 2 cards. Now, the only thing that was a little bit fast here was I obviously didn't do my cut and stamping and coloring, but do a little bit of extra work on that side of it and have them ready to go. And you can make a couple quick, fast cards. So let us go in, and I think I'm going to use the pink flat back pearls so we can add a little bit of pink to her flower. I think that's kind of fun. So the center is just a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it right there. I know there is like a stamen or whatever it's called in the middle there. But we're just going to cover it up and pretend it's something else. And we're going to put that there. And I think that's just super fun. Now I noticed I have a couple of spots. So I'm just going to kind of warm up my little white pen here. I don't worry about it too much. I probably need a new white gel pen. And I'm just going to go in and try to cover that up. If my pen needs to warm up, I said I have old white pens. Yeah, this one's not going to love me so much. So we're going to toss that guy out. I don't know if I have another white pen, so let us grab. I have another white pen handy. I don't see one. So I'm going to just find another white pen here, and I'm just going to touch up a couple of spots that I see where I overdid my marker. But that is a couple of cards tonight. We're a little early done. I hope that's okay. Does anyone have any questions? I can answer some questions about the subscription products. I should mention that the CYOE challenge is still alive. It is rainbow, so you can use rainbow. These cards would totally work for that because it's a rainbow of color. I've got my red, my orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So I've got all the colors of the rainbow. I know, and I haven't really invested in one in a long time. I mean, those are so old. And I've got my red, I don't have any orange, but I have yellow, green. I have kind of a blue here. So, I mean, they work for like a part of rainbow. So they would work for the CYOE challenge. You can enter 2 cards or 2 projects up until the end of the month. Just hashtag CYOE challenge in the Bruce Monroe fan club, and I can enter to win a $25 store credit. Thank you, Mom. So you have to say that you're my mom. Yeah, we can create a, yes, I know, exactly, Sarah. Yes, thank you guys so much. Don't forget, it's 10 a.m. Central Time, so 11 Eastern. I already have it up, so you can go to the channel and put a notify me, and I will show you how I use some SVGs to create some cards. We may not get any projects done, but we're going to talk about SVGs. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, great weekend. Stay cool if you want. Oh, and if I'm going to see if you can see something, so you can see that shimmer. Look at that shimmer on her skirt and on her crown. Her hair is a little bit different because it kind of matched in with it's not quite as shimmery because it's not the gold, but it's a little shimmery. And when you catch it in the light, thank you, Sarah. And thank you everyone for joining me. Here is the shimmer on this one. Have a great night, you guys. Thanks, Kate. Talk to you later.